Madam President.
Senator from Alaska.
Mr. President, while my colleague from Oregon is still on the floor, I want to thank him for his leadership through these discussions over these past several days on the floor, but long prior to that. He has been a leader trying to thread the needle, and it's been a little bit harder, but I appreciate the fact that we are here today and hopefully moving forward to that agreement that will allow us as a nation to do the best that we can be and to engage in a level of trade that is fair, free, and really of great benefit to us as a nation. So I thank him for that. Mr. President, Madam President, I too want to speak about the Trade Promotion Authority and some of the issues associated with it. But before I do, I want to acknowledge the comments that were made by my colleagues from New Hampshire when they spoke about National Police Week and honoring those brave men and women who serve us day in and day out, those who go where many of us would just choose rather not to, their families that worry about them, and for those who have fallen in the line of their service. I was at the candlelight ceremony last evening, and it is probably, it's the third time now that I have been gathered with survivors, gathered with families of those who have fallen to pay tribute to the men and women who are in our law enforcement around the country. Last night, I was there to read the names of 2 Alaskans who have fallen in this past year in the line of service, and I read out the names of Sergeant P. Scott Johnson and Trooper Gabriel Lennox Rich at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial last evening. Their names are now inscribed upon that wall. I have a full statement not only acknowledging the lives of these brave men and what they have provided for all of us, but recognizing so many who have served us so honorably and who have given their all in their line of service, who have been recognized at the memorial. So I would ask, Madam President, that my full statement be included as part of the record.
Without objection.
Madam President, I wanted to speak just briefly to the issue of trade in my state of Alaska. We're here to debate the Trade Promotion Authority. We've had an opportunity now to proceed to this measure. I was pleased to be able to vote to advance it earlier this week, again today, and will continue to support free trade. In my state, being separated from the contiguous 48 states, our trade is based primarily with those to the east in Asia. Most of our trade doesn't go to the lower 48 states, and so when we think about our trading partners, for us it is international trade. And international trade in our state supports about 1 in 5 jobs, over 90,000 Alaskan jobs. Of those who are exporters, about 70% of them are small and medium-sized companies. So these are men and women and families that are engaged in a very sophisticated level of trade overseas, but again, they are, many of them, relatively small. We're very vigorous in our trade with Japan, with South Korea, with China, but we also have good relationships, of course, with our friends in Europe and elsewhere around the globe. But in 2013, the countries that are negotiating the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, and the TTIP agreements, they comprised about 54% of Alaska's goods exports. So it's a significant part of what we look to for our exports. So as we look to the TPP and the benefits that will accrue, I think our state is looking to clearly strengthen these relationships as well as open new markets for Alaska's exports. About 34,000 Alaska jobs are supported by trade with TPP countries. 36% of Alaska's goods exports are bound for TPP countries, and more than 50 TPP companies have investments within the state of Alaska. One of our longest and oldest and more established trading partners, Japan, is obviously not a current U.S. FTA partner, but the TPP negotiations will provide an avenue for removing some of the trade barriers that we see with Japan and allowing us opportunities within the state of Alaska. Specifically, relates to our fish, our fisheries, our frozen fish. Current tariff rates to export frozen fish and prepared crabs to Japan are about 10%. So a free trade agreement will lower these tariffs and increase access to Japan's seafood market. This is something that we care about a great deal, and again, it's been a very, very long-standing partnership and relationship. Today, Madam President, though, I want to move from some of the issues relating to my state and what opportunities hold for us with the prospect of Trade Promotion Authority moving forward. I want to draw attention to a related issue, and this is an issue that is outdated when it comes to exports, and very specifically, a ban on exports. And what I'm referring to is the current ban, the prohibition on crude oil exports. This absolutely runs counter to the principle of free trade, as well as the notion that we should stand ready to help our allies, to help our friends for the sake of global security. We talk a lot about national security. We talk a lot about what more we can do to provide for national security and the geopolitics, how we can be of help to our friends and allies. Well, Madam President, one area that we can demonstrate our willingness to help is if we were to lift this decades-old ban, this prohibition on our crude oil, and allow for exports. I want to give my colleagues just five quick facts here that you may or may not know about our nation's history of oil exports. Because while we have this ban on place, and it has been in place since the mid-70s, there's a history here that I think is important. The first fact goes back to World War II. The United States exported tens of millions of barrels of crude oil to our allies in World War II. And we're talking about Canada, the United Kingdom, India, Australia. We were engaged in a very robust level of export to our friends during World War II. Second fact, when Egypt seized control of the Suez Canal, President Eisenhower moved pretty quickly there, and he ordered American oil to relieve what was called Europe's oil famine. And that was pretty immediate, that was pretty direct, and it was targeted to help our allies and friends at that time. Third fact, when Rhodesia cut off the flow of oil to Zambia in 1965, America stood with Britain to provide assistance. We delivered petroleum products to the Zambian airlift. So we were there in 1965 when Zambia needed that assistance. Then in the 1970s, facing the threat from multiple regimes, Israel secured an agreement from the United States to supply it with oil in the event of a national emergency. So this agreement was made back in 1970. This was under the administration of President Ford. And that agreement was that the United States would stand with our friend and ally to provide oil in the event that their sources were threatened, that Israel was threatened. And that agreement stood through President Ford's administration, President Carter, President Bill Clinton, President George Bush, and with this president in the Obama administration. So it is an agreement that has endured, that we will stand by our friend Israel in providing it with a source of oil in the event of a national emergency. And this was something where we just got the administration to sign off on this literally a month or so ago to re-up that agreement. And then the fifth fact here is former Ambassador Carlos Pascual and others have testified before our committee, the Energy Committee, that the sanctions against Iran, which brought Iran to the table, worked. They worked because of rising U.S. oil production, and he went further to say that we were hamstrung by our inability to export it. We've heard this consistently in the Energy Committee. We heard this discussed on the floor of the Senate the past couple weeks when we were talking about the Iran deal and the negotiations there. But, Madam President, we're in a position today where our friends, our trading partners, our allies are again asking for our assistance. We have the resource. Some would say we are awash in oil right now. The production that we have seen has been nothing short of phenomenal. But we're tied, we're limited in our ability to move it beyond our shores. And our allies are looking at us, and they're in the grips of tension. Look at our friends and allies in Poland. Poland is 96% dependent on Russia for their oil. Don't you think that Poland would rather receive their oil from their friend, the United States? Poland has been there with us when it comes to national missile defense, with just about every engagement that we have had. Poland has been there for us. Wouldn't it be nice for us to be there with our friend Poland? Just a couple weeks ago, we had Prime Minister from Japan here, Mr. Abe. Iran is still supplying oil to Japan. Despite those sanctions, Japan needs a source of oil. Don't you think that Japan would much rather receive oil from the United States, more crude from the United States? So I think we recognize the world is changed out there. There are new alliances, there's new threats, there's new hopes, there's new fears, but it remains my hope that while the world may change, our role as a global leader has not eroded. And one clear, sure way that we can ensure that it hasn't eroded is to help our friends. Use our resources as a national strategic asset to help our friends and allies. The whole idea that oil exports are still prohibited, sometimes to me is mind-boggling. And I've been working on this now for over a year. We've been encouraging different reports so that people really understand this issue, wrap their arms around it, because to change a policy that has been in place for decades, it takes understanding and education. And so I'm willing to give that time. But I also appreciate that the policy that is in place right now just doesn't make sense. The Commerce Department retains a list of commodities that are defined in short supply, and they call this the short supply controls. And historically, these controls were generally not blanket prohibitions. They were on things like aluminum or copper, iron, steel scrap, nickel, selenium, and the polio vaccine. But, Madam President, it's interesting. You look at that short supply controls list right now. There are 3 items on that list. The first, obviously you guessed it, is crude oil. The second is Western red cedar. And the third is horses for export by sea intended for slaughter. Now there's a small caveat because there's a prohibition of exports of petroleum products that would come from the Naval Petroleum Reserve, but it's very small. So really what we're talking about, the three items that are on this short supply control list, in other words, prohibited, are oil, cedar, and horses. Go figure. Now, we do have embargoes on North Korea, for example, and we control the export of other things such as sensitive technology. But crude oil's presence on the short supply controls, I think, is particularly conspicuous since we export our petroleum products, our refined products, at record levels. And I think it's important for people to make that distinction because sometimes I think there's a little bit of confusion. We export our refined product at record levels. What we don't export is the crude. So when people say, well, I'm afraid that if we lift the oil export ban and we allow for crude export, that the price of oil, or the price at the pump, is going to go up. And I'm worried about that. Well, I think we would all be worried about that. We don't want to see the price of gasoline at the pump go up. But the fact remains that what you put in your vehicle, what you pump at the filling station, that's a refined product, that we already export that. So we don't see that price, you don't see that price spike, you don't see that increase. What we don't refine is the crude product. We have engaged in study after study after study. There's been about 8 different very reputable studies out there, and each and every one of them has come to the same conclusion, that allowing for the lifting of the export ban will not increase the price of gas to the consumer. And I think it's important to reaffirm that. But I would urge my colleagues who are ready to vote for Trade Promotion Authority to consider joining my effort. My colleague, Senator Heitkamp from North Dakota, is working with me on the other side to again lift this ban, to extend the principle of free trade to crude oil exports. We export natural gas, we export diesel, jet fuel, gasoline, natural gasoline, propane, coal, so many other petroleum products. And I should end by reminding people that the ban that we have in place does allow for certain limited amounts of export. Today, we export to Canada about 4,000 barrels a day. I think that's about average right now. And with Alaska, there is an exception that was allowed for export of Alaska crude back in the mid-90s, and I just asked for confirmation on what we have been exporting. Last year, in September of 2014, we exported about 800,000 barrels to South Korea, and I'm told that just this month, in May, there was 975,000 barrels that went over to South Korea. So we in Alaska are trying to do our little bit to help. We need to get our oil pipeline filled up so that we can do more to export more to those who are our friends and partners and allies. But this is something that again, the time is now. The subject is ripe as we're talking about allowing for greater opportunities for export. But when we look to those policies that hold us back from good jobs, from producing our resources to our benefit and our economy's benefit, and to the benefit of our friends and allies, it's time that we lift the ban on crude oil. Doing so will create jobs, strengthen our security, lower our trade deficit, and again, as study after study has shown, not raise our gasoline prices. Madam President, I thank you for the time on the floor this morning. this afternoon, and look forward to working with my colleagues on these issues. And with that, I yield the floor.